As the Russia-Ukraine war rages on, an unexpected night maneuver in the Kursk region shocked the world. Ukraine, against all odds, crossed into Russian territory, raising one burning question. How did Russia fail to prevent this attack? In a previous video, we discussed the broader context of this conflict, where Ukraine has been identifying and exploiting Russia's weaknesses with swift and effective strikes. But now, we're going to dive deeper into the pressing question: what happens next, and assess Russia's current position. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to support us. Let's explore what we know about Kursk and the ongoing developments. 2.5 years into the Russia-Ukraine war, both armies have had to adapt to new realities and uncertainties. The strategies and tactics have evolved significantly, reflecting the changing dynamics of the battlefield. Early in the war, we were discussing Russia's plans to encircle Kyiv, and today we are witnessing Ukraine's daring Kursk offensive on Russian soil. Kursk, a city with historical significance due to the famous Battle of Kursk in World War II, lies just west of Russia, about 530 kilometers south of Moscow. This city, crucial to Russia's agricultural and industrial sectors, has now become the epicenter of a new phase in the war. Before the conflict, Kursk had a population of around 450,000, but recent events have drastically altered its fate. For the past 9 months, Ukraine has struggled with shortages of military personnel and equipment, while Russia has been bolstering its forces. Despite receiving international aid, Ukraine was unable to fully replenish its ranks, leading it to shift from a defensive stance to an offensive one. On August 6th, at least 2 Ukrainian brigades, comprising roughly 10,000 soldiers, launched a surprise attack on Russia's Kursk region. This attack marked a significant turning point in the Russia-Ukraine war. It was the first time that Ukraine had made such a substantial and organized incursion into Russian territory, catching everyone, including Russia, off guard. This operation is recognized as one of the most comprehensive and mechanized assaults on Russian soil. Ukrainian forces advanced from the Sumy region, pushing northwest into Kursk, targeting Russian military units and border guards. By the end of the first day, Ukrainian troops had moved approximately 10 kilometers and taken control of 10 settlements. By the 7th day, the depth of their advance had extended to 30 kilometers, as confirmed by satellite imagery. Reports suggest that Russia's military leadership ignored warnings about Ukrainian forces massing near the border. Since the start of the operation, conflicting reports have emerged about who was responsible for Russia's military response. Traditionally, the chief of the general staff would be in command, but Russian President Vladimir Putin labeled the response a counter-terrorism operation, falling under the jurisdiction of the Federal Security Service. Some speculate that responsibility might have been given to Alexei Duymin, one of Putin's close allies and a potential successor. However, the question remains, why was Russia unable to prevent this attack? The consensus points to a combination of frontline concentration, where Russian forces were heavily focused on Ukraine's ongoing offensives, and intelligence failures. Additionally, the F-16 aircraft supplied to Ukraine played a crucial role in the attack, further complicating Russia's defense. In response to the offensive, Putin convened his security team, acknowledging the failures in Russia's defensive strategy, but stating that these issues would be addressed later. Rumors circulate that several high-ranking officials, including the chief of the general staff, Gerasimov, might be held accountable. The Wall Street Journal reported that, a few months before the attack, Russian General Lapin disbanded the council coordinating military actions in the region. This decision reportedly left the border vulnerable, leading to the chaotic and ineffective response to Ukraine's incursion. Despite having intelligence on the attack, Lapan's forces failed to strengthen defensive lines or lay mines in anticipation of the assault. As the second week of Ukraine's occupation of Kursk progresses, they have already destroyed 2 strategic bridges critical to military logistics and damaged historical monuments, including a statue of Lenin. Ukrainian President Zelensky has hinted at the establishment of a buffer zone in Kursk, signaling a long-term presence. Ukraine's goal may be to divide Russian forces, especially those stationed in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, thereby alleviating pressure on Ukrainian positions in those areas. If Russia is forced to redeploy troops from these regions to defend Kursk, it could create opportunities for significant gains by Ukraine on other fronts. The strategic value of this operation is multifaceted, reversing the perception of Russia's dominance, boosting the morale of Ukrainian troops and citizens, and potentially using the captured territory as leverage in future negotiations. The involvement of Western powers, particularly the continued military support from the US and the EU, strengthens Ukraine's position. Kursk holds significant importance for Russia's defense industry and energy infrastructure. Its proximity to the Ukrainian border makes it a key logistics hub for military operations on Russia's Western Front. Ukraine's control over this region represents a strategic blow to Russia. Furthermore, if Ukraine continues to advance, the potential capture of the Kursk nuclear power plant could have profound implications, possibly leading to a trade-off with the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. Control over these facilities would provide Ukraine with significant bargaining power. Militarily, the Kursk operation could be a distraction to cover for another offensive. Politically, it forces Russia to defend its homeland, potentially undermining Putin's domestic support. The offensive also threatens Russia's logistical networks, further complicating their ability to sustain military operations across multiple fronts. The social implications for Russia are also severe. The Russian public, who have largely perceived the war as a distant conflict, are now confronted with the reality of war on their own soil. This could lead to increased domestic unrest and a shift in public opinion against the war. Despite setbacks like the Kursk operation, Russian state media continues to portray strong support for Putin. However, gauging the true sentiments of Russia's elite, Putin's key supporters, remains challenging. Many of these elites have seen their fortunes decline since the war began, and the longer the conflict drags on, the more their patience may wear thin. Russia's defense ministry recently announced the formation of new military units to defend settlements along the Ukrainian border. Additionally, Chechen forces, which had been reported in the region since April, have claimed that the conflict in Kursk, and perhaps the entire war, could be over within 2-3 months. With US elections on the horizon, Putin might be holding back in anticipation of a potential Trump victory, which could significantly reduce US support for Ukraine. Trump has already indicated that he would drastically change America's Ukraine policy, likely cutting military and financial aid. This could shift the balance of power back in Russia's favor, and both sides appear to be preparing for this possibility. However, former CIA analyst Larry Johnson has argued that regardless of the US election outcome, Ukraine is unlikely to achieve a decisive victory. According to Johnson, American public support for Ukraine is waning, and this trend will continue regardless of who wins the presidency.